Hi, I'm Ash. I'm a social scientist and I make videos about sociological topics, and sometimes I make vlogs. In this video, we're going to be talking about some popular misconceptions and myths surrounding urban legends and unsolved mysteries. So let's get into the video. I believe I have around 24 of these popular misconceptions, and as I am a social scientist, I am super interested in debunking things, analyzing things from a critical lens, all that jazz. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So the first one I have is that infamous Valentine's Day photo in Times Square where a sailor is allegedly kissing his wife. However, it's not his wife at all. He has just gotten back from deployment overseas on the waters, whatever you want to call it, and he comes back in to the land and he embraces this woman who turns out to be a dental assistant, which everyone just assumed it was his wife, and she was a nurse. However, these two people didn't know each other at all. He just kissed a random stranger. So this photo is fake, and I'll put it here for reference. And please take note, men, don't kiss random people who aren't your wife, and don't kiss people without consent. Okay, the next myth is all about Halloween. So as we know, Halloween is a time where children like to go trick-or-treating, dress up, get free candy, lollies, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of parents have genuine concerns about their children's candy being laced with something. However, we all know that that stuff is probably really, really expensive and unlikely to happen. But this myth is rooted in a really, really unfortunate true crime case that occurred back in 1974. So in 1974, 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien was going to go trick-or-treating on Halloween with his two siblings. And that night, their father had given them pixie sticks, and only one of the children, Timothy, ate the candy, and unfortunately this candy was laced with potassium cyanide. So Timothy unfortunately was murdered, which is really, really awful for a child, and it's just so sad. Now, this was investigated and authorities found that the children's father, Ronald Clark O'Brien, laced the candy that he gave to the children. And he did this because he recently took out a $31,000 life insurance policy on all three of his children. So he wanted to murder his children in order to get the money, which is just so awful. And obviously they found him guilty of murdering his own child, so he was imprisoned, and then I believe he got the death penalty 10 years later. So that is where that myth comes from, which is really unfortunate that it is rooted in a true crime case, and so awful that someone's own father would do that to them. The next one is that crop circles aren't made by aliens. They're either human hoaxes or they are made by severe weather conditions. Now we're going to talk about gut feelings, which is just so interesting to me. So gut feelings are most likely your brain working overtime to analyze a specific situation, and you should probably listen to them. Or not, I'm not your boss, do whatever you want. In one of the recent books I read, The Mind-Gut Connection, there is scientific evidence to suggest that the brain and gut are connected way more than we think they are. BuzzFeed says, sometimes it might feel like your body is trying to tell you something in a gut feeling, when in reality your brain has already processed the situation and has sent a cue to your stomach before you've even realized it. And I think that's something we should take into account more often. Bermuda Triangle has many legends surrounding it, and it used to scare the shit out of me as a child. The same with like quicksand and aliens and things like that. I was so scared of all of this. And there's so many legends about aircraft, ships going missing, all of that. However, there's not actually any evidence of more ships or aircrafts going missing than normal. Moving on to the Loch Ness Monster, which I find very fascinating because recently on TV there was a show where people were literally still looking for Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, and they were convinced that they saw stuff in the water, and It just makes me laugh, and I don't want to be a judgmental person because you can believe whatever you like, but it has been debunked that it was a hoax. Like, the photographer came forward and said the photo was manipulated and the Loch Ness Monster is not real. But yeah, it's definitely very scary to think about what people do fall for and how gullible we are as humans. Even me, sometimes I fall for things. And that brings me to the next myth, which is spontaneous human combustion. This isn't real, but I used to think it was real. And it was another one of those things that scared me in high school, and it's just not real. So, Twinkies. There's this misconception that Twinkies have a shelf life of like 7 to 10 years. However, they actually only have a shelf life of 7 to 10 days, which, when you think about all the references in pop culture where the Twinkies are, it's pretty scary. Like, you probably shouldn't eat it if you find it, but if there's nothing else to eat, would you eat it? It's not clear whether Lizzie Borden actually murdered her family. Maybe Sam and Colby will know. Who knows? The next one is that violent video games don't actually cause violence or people to become violent. It's a myth. Video games can be good. It's more like if someone is prone to being violent and then they play those violent games, they're probably more likely to still be violent and probably going to be violent whether they play those video games or not. But maybe, just maybe, I also think those violent video games, or just video games in general, might give them a safe space to play out those fantasies without actually hurting someone. That's probably an unpopular opinion, but hopefully you get what I mean. And there is a lot of research out there on how video games can be good for development, motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and all of that jazz. The next one is that bulls, the animal, aren't actually enraged by the color red when you see bullfighters and the red sheet sort of thing. They're actually enraged by the bullfighters, so the people themselves. That's what makes them angry. Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't that short. He was about 5'6", and for reference, I'm about 5'7", and I'm not that short. I'm average height for a woman, I guess. So all of these like memes and stuff about him being short, having short man syndrome, all of that jazz, he wasn't that short. I can't believe I have to say this, but the world is not flat. I didn't even put a reference in my blog for this one. It's not flat, it's round, okay? The world is round. And that should genuinely be common knowledge, things we should all learn in school. But it does make me wonder about the flat earth community. Are they doing it for community or belonging, or are they doing it because they genuinely believe the earth is flat? I just don't know. Or do they get indoctrinated in a cult-like way? Let me know if you want me to make content on that stuff, because it's just fascinating to me. This one makes me angry, but women in the Salem witch trials and elsewhere, witch trials back in the olden days, weren't actually witches. They were just women. And they were more likely to be accused of being a witch if they deviated from social norms. It was kind of like a hysteria or moral panic of sorts. And kind of like the moral panic of daycare workers in, I think it was the 90s, which is awful. And I feel like we should do better in regards to moral panics. Like, when moral panics happen like this, it's like a mass hysteria and everyone seems to believe it even though it's not necessarily true. So I think we should just be aware of panic and what things are being fed to us in our algorithms. Black holes aren't actually always black, and they don't suck everything in, so we probably don't need to be as scared of them as we are. But I don't know if that will happen, because they are kind of scary. There's not actually a waiting period to report someone missing. You don't have to wait 24 hours, especially in Australia and I think elsewhere as well. If you think someone is missing, report them missing as soon as possible. You do not have to wait the 24 hours. It is a myth. Call authorities if you think someone is missing. MSG is not bad for you. That is rooted in racism and it is awful. There's also a myth that lightning never strikes twice in the same place, but that has been debunked. It can strike twice in the same place. And I've heard that if you have been struck by lightning, you're more likely to get struck again, which is pretty terrifying to think about. One side of the brain cannot be more dominant than the other side, so we are neither going to be right-brained or left-brained. It doesn't matter on our personalities. Both sides of the brain are working as they should be, and neither are more dominant. Lie detector tests, or polygraphs as they're more commonly known, aren't actually reliable tools. So they're not used to determine whether someone is lying. They look at people's physiological responses, which might lead to whether you think they're lying or not. So like whether you're sweating while you're doing it or things like that, or breathing heavily, that's what it's measuring. And it's just not reliable because people can trick it and people might just feel nervous and then you might think they're lying. That's why they just never hold up in court and things like that. There is a misconception that if you remember your dreams, you had a really good sleep. However, this isn't the case. If you remember the dreams, you probably woke up just after your REM sleep and you probably had a poorer sleep. Goldfish don't actually have a memory of 3 seconds. And yes, I used to believe this one, but it's wrong. So some studies have suggested that goldfish can remember things for up to 5 months. Isn't that crazy? It doesn't actually take 7 years to digest gum. You can't digest it at all. Your body just passes it through you, which is gross. Don't eat gum, okay? And the final one is that cracking your knuckles doesn't actually cause arthritis, as many people believe. But please don't do it around me because it gives me the ick. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We are building community here, and if you enjoy sociology content and stuff like that, stick around for more. I will link my blog post down below so you can read that and see all the sources that I've used as well. And yeah, I'm Ash and I'll see you next time.